Dear people of God, as I mentioned at the beginning of this Mass, that the Word of God this morning is calling upon us to open up to the grace that is coming our way in this early season of Advent we are beginning. God is telling us through His Word that the future is holding grace for each one of us. So as we go through difficult times, challenges, and everything, we should keep the faith. Could be the situation when Jeremiah came up to give a message of hope we have heard in the first reading. These people had just returned from the Babylonian exile, and they were trying to rebuild Jerusalem. All around them were ruins. Their former homes were occupied by wild animals. The progress was very slow, and few were committed to making a change on the surroundings because they felt a bit of disappointment in God. They kept wondering, that is God ever with us and more? And if so, where are the promises of David? And why could he have done that to his people, the chosen ones and covenantal people? They thought God had betrayed them, and everything seemed to them to have collapsed. So it's in such moments when everything seems to have collapsed that grace breaks through. And this is the message of hope Jeremiah is giving his people, that God is going to come with the power to rebuild, to reconstruct, to strengthen, to rehabilitate. And those are forms of grace that come even to us as I speak, to rebuild, to rehabilitate, to recreate, in order to bring about a new world in us. And this is what we call grace, healthy for all of us. So God is inviting us to open up our lives, our hearts to Him, so that He can make a new entry that will make us a new home for Him, that will make us a new creation, that will turn us into signs of His new and special presence. As Jeremiah spoke to his people, he told them that an upright branch will come up. That's grace from God. And with this branch will come peace, justice, and uprightness in the land. That's grace from God. And people will thrive on grace. The same words apply to us today. If there are any forms of disappointment, frustrations, I pray nothing frustrating happened on Thanksgiving. I had a great Thanksgiving, and Father Paul was with us. We had a good time. So we keep praying that everything goes in that direction. But even when things seem to be twisted a little, we shouldn't lose hope. Because I understand there can break up an argument about how pumpkin was prepared. Oh my, that's not the only pumpkin you'll ever eat. And just call it a day and hope for another better pumpkin especially if it's cooked by me, you are in trouble. So God is sowing a new life in us today. He's sowing a new life even with the greater intensity in this new Advent season. He's going to come in a big way. And if we welcome him now in a big way, he's going to make us big. And he has said and pointed to signs of change in the gospel. The falling of the stars and everything in that line as we saw last Sunday. He's indicating that the old world that is built on falsehood, wrong worship, will collapse. And he will come on the clouds to initiate, as we saw in Daniel, the first reading last Sunday, to initiate a new kingdom. So Christ the King Sunday was actually preparing us to enter into Advent today. Those are the graces. God is not a spectator. He's fully involved in our life to recreate us. So when his coming is made possible by our cooperation, our obedience, our openness to him, great things will happen. I think this is the grace that might be ours as well, which will be a pointer to the inner coming of life. If we begin to feel a desire to pray more this Advent, if we resolve to renew our commitments, if we remove all spiritual obstacles that stand in the way of God's graces, if we desire to reconcile with one another, if we desire to get closer to Christ and his church, if there is a greater intensity of wanting to get in touch with our friends in a good way, and with a greater intensity of making things right in our families, greater interest in working for peace inside and out, new strength in building bands of faith, all these will be indicators of that new grace advancing in our direction. So let us act as St. Paul has invited us in the second reading. Live in high expectation. This hope is sure, and God does not disappoint. Let's cherish his promises. He has never left us on our own, and he knows that without him, we can do nothing. That's why he says, I am with you until the end of time. Let's take advantage of his coming in a new way this time and allow him to renew us so we become even extensions of these moments of grace to our brothers and sisters. The Lord be with you.
And with yours.